Mr. Don, how are you doing this evening? Welcome to
Absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic. Welcome to Shop Talk. My name is MacKenzie Wilson. This is the only show in Alberta dedicated to all things landlording because we're that cool. We're gonna get right into it. We're gonna have some fun. Uh, I have a little bit of a tech demonstration tonight. I'm gonna show you how you can use some AI to virtually stage photos for your rental properties super easily. Yeah, it's not even that hard. It's kind of a little up my alley. I've been doing it for a bit now. Got kind of hang of it, and there's a few things that I gotta watch out for, but really, once you see me do it, you'll realize it's anyone can do it. It's just kind of having a conversation with someone and telling them what to draw. So we'll do that. Don, I know you and I were going back and forth about what some topics to talk about tonight. You brought up a good one. Someone posted just recently in the last day here. How many written warnings would you give a basement tenant for noise complaints before beginning the eviction process? There's some nuances into that question, so we'll lean on you for that, Don. And then the last one that got brought up as well, not last one. I thought this was really interesting because this has come up a few times, but the community came out in full force, which is great to see. Sharon asked about, she has a rental property. The neighbor of her rental property, who's also, I think if I understood the correct question correctly, is a landlord and a real estate agent, approached her with a quote to replace the fence that borders both of their properties. And so she's asking some questions on how to deal with it. You know, does she have to do anything? A bunch of these different questions. There's 46 answers within less than a day. So yeah, let's get right into it. Don, I'm gonna warm up to you. You're busy with cases and doing eviction. So what's the typical timeline from the date you file to the date you get your hearing?
It's running pretty consistently 12 to 16 days, so roughly 2 weeks.
Perfect. Awesome. And that can also vary too, depending on the case. So there's some cases that get priorities. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Cool. Well, Don, where do you want to go with this? Do we want to jump into the AI thing? Kind of knock that one out of the bat first. Yeah, let's do that.
I'm interested.
Yeah,
I'm interested
let me
in
see
that.
if I can teach some people some new things. And you know, this AI thing, it's super neat, and I think it works actually really well for rental listings because rental listings, there's that difference between. Oh, I'll get my screen up here as I kind of chit chat away. Here we go. There's a difference between listing a property to rent because the customer is looking for a, relatively speaking in the terms of life, a short-term solution, right? 1 to 2 years, maybe a bit longer, for a place to call home. They're not putting a huge amount of money down. It's just kind of got to suit and fix their needs or suit their needs in that kind of particular stage of life. Whereas someone who's buying a new property, buying a house, they're going to be understandably so very selective and very picky. So I think staging photos for probably buying and selling real estate isn't quite there yet. It could probably get there, but AI staging right now, and it's or virtually staging photos with AI is perfect for rental real estate. It fits the bill. It's extremely cheap. So I'm using Canva, which is not really Photoshop. It's like Paint and a bit of PowerPoint, and it does a bunch of other stuff. It's an online paid service. It's just a really easy to use kind of platform that create quick media. So here's a picture of my rental property, and I'll give you a tip right off the bat here. This room will fit. It's a kid's room. If you were to put a queen bed in here, it would probably take up 3/4 of the room, probably a little bit more. So it's that kind of gives you the context of the size of it. Well, this is kind of the interesting thing with AI, and we'll see this. So we're going to click on the photo here, go edit image, and they call this magic edit. And so you've got to do two things. You got to tell it where you want the picture to, where you want to modify the picture. So then you're just going to shade over an area. So, I want a bed roughly in this area. So we're just going to do this. you know, probably a picture here, picture here, picture here, and then maybe another piece of furniture here. And we do something there too, I guess. Okay. Now we're going to say, add, what would it be? A double bed, nightstand, and dresser with a couple, what we call them, wall hangings. No, photos. A couple of wall decor. There you go. And we'll say, you know, for a kid's room, because it's kind of cool. You can actually, and for those out there that kind of know your target demographic, you've been renting for a bit, you know who you want to go after, whether it be a young professional, perhaps it's someone that works remotely, or sorry, works away from the property or works remotely. Like, so many nuances in the demographics. You can get really granular, which is really cool. So you click on generate. It AI is working its magic right now. And kind of a bust this time. So we've got a desk in the one corner. It looks good, but doesn't do much. That, I have no idea what that is. And then there's no bed furniture at all. So that one's kind of the best. But here's the deceiving thing. Remember I said this room will barely fit it would barely fit a queen bed. Well, it's kind of there's not two pillows there, but it has in the past. We'll try again here. Has added furniture in such a scale where it makes the room look much bigger. So the one thing you have to be aware of is knowing the scale and size of the room and ensuring that the photos generated match that in context, so you're not misleading or misrepresenting the photos. So let's go back and try this again. I'm just gonna do this. There you go. Okay, swing and a miss. So what we could do again, they also have another option where you can just kind of click and highlight walls. This is new. I just discovered this today, but I've been using the paintbrushes before. All right, so we'll just do that. We got the whole wall highlighted and the floor. We're going to make some changes. Create a bedroom for a young working professional. Now look at that.
Oh, I want to move in.
Yeah. But how big does that room look right now to you, Don?
It looks like a master bedroom.
Right. And this room is like, this is a small, like, single one bedroom. Like, so the context of this house, it's one of my rental properties. It's a it's a 1960s, late 1950s bungalow, the wartime kind of bungalows, post-war. It's less than 1,200 square feet. I want to say it's 1,100 something. It's 3 beds, 1 bath upstairs. And so it's not a big house. I mean, it's great for rentals. It's bang on. But yeah, so we can click on some of the other ones. Look at this. Yeah, it's not perfect. Like, they got, like, I'm guessing, a monitor in front of a TV. Like, there's some kind of weird stuff that happens. I mean, look at that. That looks cool. Like, it's
What happened to the window?
yeah, you don't need the window. Oh, now
There
there's
we
4
go.
windows.
There we go.
Right.
Perfect.
So again, this is an interior wall right here. I can't use this. Like, it looks great, but this would be super misleading because the scale is definitely not right. And then I've got windows where there is no windows. So you kind of want to, here we go. That's my original window there, but they even changed the window, I think, too. So, you know, we can do it again. Let's say, create a small bedroom for, say, young professional again, young professional with a single bed. Oh, generate. And sometimes you might just keep using the same text, but then change how much you've highlighted the house. All right, so that's crazy different. Kind of the same thing again. It didn't really overly change too much here. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's like a bed stool. Yeah, so I mean, not perfect, but what we can do is let's just kind of reset here again. Oh, edit. Let's delete all that stuff. Go back to the original photo. Click on magic, edit again. What we could do is let's do the brush one again and say, you know what? I want the bed to kind of take this part of the room. No, Don, what type of room should we do right now?
You mean like boys and girls type of thing?
I don't know. Tell me what. Should we turn this into an office?
Well, if you're going to put a bed in, it wouldn't be an office.
Yep. So we don't have to do a bed.
Child's room.
Okay. Create a child's room with a blue bunk bed, toy bin,
And a small desk.
and a small desk. Cool.
No, there you go. It's for a really small child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
You just have to play with the wording.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anyways, I should find an example here, but it's kind of neat to see it. I think if you keep it kind of generic, it's not too bad. Let's just try one more because I was kind of thinking we'd get better results. Because last time I did this, it was working quite well.
A child's room with a single bed.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Use manners, please. Decor this room as a single bed for a child with toys and dresser. But like in pretty short order for a half dozen photos, if you're spending 10 minutes a photo, kind of just bombing through and going back and forth and changing the questions, trying different descriptions. This is like the worst demo ever because it totally worked way better last time you did this.
Well, the more you did it, the faster you would get because you learn the right words. I think you should add single bed to it.
Yeah, add an office.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, put it as a office with a printer.
There you go. That's not overly bad.
Oh, I mean something on the walls. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. Bedroom.
Yeah, I think you've had some fun with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I think for rentals, and you can kind of, like I said, if you already kind of have some stuff, or you can kind of you can really be specific and just do one part of the photo as well. I don't know if I can undo this. So I mean, ask questions, by the way. I totally just got right into the middle of this without. If you got questions on and you guys are watching, I see there's a bunch of you on, please ask away. Like if you already had something in the room, you could just do the wall too. I mean, like you could be that, and that's what the brush part's for, is just for highlighting different stuff. So, we could just, I really want to do a better job because it's bugging me now that we haven't got this figured out. let's say bedroom for a teenager. Did I not spell it right? Teenager. I think so. There we go.
Perfect.
Finally, something actually looks legit. Did change the window though a bit, which is kind of annoying.
There we go.
Yeah.
That gives you the idea of the room, actually.
Yeah, this is probably actually about right. The pillows make the bed look a little bit bigger. But yeah. Yeah, I think the first one wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be worried about changing the window too, because I think the key here is you don't want to misrepresent. So trying to stay true to the original dimensions, some of the key things, the features of the room that you can't change, like a window. Maybe you could go, okay, great, this is good, done, and then you can come back in here and be like, you know what, add a blinds. Ooh,
There we
that's
go.
a funky color. Yeah, so you can almost do something like that. It's too big of a window, so this would probably be. It's not, again, it's not great. But it's not bad either. But I think I think probably one of the key things here as well is starting out with good quality photos. If you're starting with something grainy, no good.
But the idea behind it is to show what's usable about it. You look at that picture and you don't know that's a 8x12 room or a 10x12 room. So it's a bed in the middle and a few shelves. That gives people an idea what it is, and they're not going to spend a lot of time gazing at it. They're going to go flip through and say, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Don. Right, kind of giving them an idea of what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
So the person knows the exact size of the room, because it's basically a waste of time, and on both your own time but especially on the tenant's time, or whoever the perspective lead is if they come in with an understanding and they take time off, book you for a viewing, they get out there and the property's not even close to what they're expecting. Well, they're not going to be interested, and then you could have spent that time back home or booked another viewing or whatever, right? So I mean, that's
Yep.
just the key thing is ensuring that what's being displayed is very representative of what the actual property is. So yeah, anyways, kind of a neat thing. It's like super cheap. I mean, I do have a paid subscription. It's less than $20 a month with Canva, but you can even just pay for 1 month for $20, do all your photos, cancel it. And I'm sure there's probably even cheaper services just to do the stage that might even be better. But that was just one I had on hand. So kind of a neat thing.
That is a neat thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, our world is moving so fast, new stuff all the time, and we need to keep abreast of that. Whether we use it or we don't, we need to be aware of what's available and where things are going.
Yep. Yeah, and it solves the need if you get special. I mean, the logistics I found when I got my so I got my property cleaned up, I had it repainted, and of course it's vacant, but it was in really good shape. And I was like, well, I'm gonna get professional pictures done now. And I was like, I can hopefully just get them virtually staged and pay someone to do it over on like Fiverr, do it across overseas for $50 or $100, whatever it would have cost me to do that. But honestly, I've never got around to it. But no, this is out. It's like it kind of works well because I have some of my rental properties, my photos. I've had some tenants with really good, just really good furniture, good kind of choice of style or taste, and I've asked, and some have let me use they're actually quite proud that they're like, oh, you want to use my furniture as staging for your photos? Yeah, for sure. Let's go and do it. And so I've been able to do that, but that's not always the case, right? So I mean, this kind of allows you to deal with when the unit's in really good condition. You're in the middle of a turnover, and you can kind of quickly put some photos together for the ad, and you can always change them then later, but gives you something to work with. So it's not just plain photos. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Okay. Fantastic. So let's get into your question, Don, that you brought up. Alex in the group here asked just the other day, how many written warnings would you give a basement tenant for noise complaints before beginning the eviction process?
Well, the exact answer is it depends. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on what kind of noise it is, what time of day it is. If they respond to you knocking on the door and saying, "Look, man, it's a little loud. I'm trying to sleep," or they don't, if they get belligerent with you and that sort of stuff. So you got to look at all of that. I'm a real believer in conversation. I get calls from tenants that live in an apartment, and they're mad as heck because the guy upstairs walks like an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
And my first question is, did you go up and mention to him that it's a little loud down? Could he throw down a mat or something, or could he not tromp around like an elephant at midnight? Put in nicer words. And the answer invariably I get back is, no, that's not my job. So, I mean, it's all relevant too. So if this guy is cranking his tunes up at 9 in the morning, and the teacups on your stand are vibrating, and it's irritating you, and you can't do your work, then that's not kosher. The city bylaw works on what's it called, decibels. It's pretty hard to measure decibels unless you got a machine that would do it.
Yeah, it's not.
But if it's loud and irritating, then and they won't respond to you, and it gets worse. Often, some of these people would be turn it up higher if you complain.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a noise complaint at 9 in the morning if it's bothering you, like seriously bothering you. The same at midnight. I've got a case going right now that the guy in the basement is a night hawk. He gets up at 5 in the afternoon and party hardies all night. Has people over. The guy upstairs works a shift like the rest of us do.
Yeah.
He has to get up at 5 in the morning, and the fight is on. So how many times? Well, I think rule of thumb is first you talk to them, maybe once or maybe twice. If it worked and they slip a little bit or whatever, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So you talk nice, and then follow that by a written, maybe a couple of written notices saying, we talked about this on this date, and last night I couldn't sleep because of the noise, and I ask you please to turn down your radio or whatever the problem is, and that gives you evidence for an eviction as well. So you could have 2 or 3 of those. Excuse me. If it's really loud, have the police come in and talk to them. Get an event number, write that down with the date and a brief little explanation of what happened. And that's all building evidence, so that if this guy is on a fixed term and he's going to be there 11 more months, and your teacup's going to break because it's vibrating so much, then you can a month or a half or 2 months into it, you can approach doing a go to the RTDRS. That alone would net you most likely a conditional order with a called keep the peace clause that says that there's to be no noise between or only reasonable noise between this hour and that hour. And then if it continues on, then the complainant can come back to the RTDRS for a second hearing where it be dealt with much more severely. So that would be the steps. If that's all there is, if that's the big problem, even if he's swearing at you and calling you names, I mean, that's you can't evict somebody for that. But yeah, that's the steps I would do. Plan it out and keep you cool.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I along the exact same lines, Don. I'm gonna ask you that question about swearing because I might contend with you on that one. But going to if you've got a noise complaint, you're probably, again, we're talking like a suite property, so basement suite, the main floor. Is you need that layered paperwork, which is what Don said, and I think that's really the key takeaway here. My kind of using technology here a bit is get the tenant who's complaining upstairs or downstairs to take videos and catch the audio. I'm assuming it's probably to the degree where it'll be picked up on a phone recording. Have them say the time and date, second occurrence, third occurrence, whatever. Get a couple of those videos. Unfortunately, like, they're gonna have to suffer through a bit of period of time to collect enough of this evidence to justify to get into the hearing. I think that's probably the way to go. I mean, pictures say 1,000 words, they say, so videos and audio is that next step. Is important. So, and probably have them in that video describe the type of room, why it's super loud. Like, it's, it sounds, I'd be like, okay, it's 2 a.m. It's on a Tuesday night. They're banging in the kitchen right now, and that grinding noise is them. Sounds like chairs dragging along the wall. It actually sounds a lot louder than maybe what's coming on the audio here because of ABC. Just be descriptive. And then, like you said, you get that conditional order. I'm just trying to think. If there's, and usually these things come in batches, like you've said, Don, in the past, where there's probably more other things you can file for. But if we're just strictly dealing with a sound issue and they've paid the rent, the property's clean, there's really no other complaints. Yeah, you'll be stuck with the conditional order. And what does the conditional order mean again, Don, versus a unconditional order?
Well, unconditional order is you got a date and time that they have to leave.
Like
a conditional
deadline.
order means that they can stay as long as they meet the conditions that are put into the. Yeah.
Perfect. So one's got a deadline. It's fixed. It's absolute. It's happening. They're getting kicked out, or removed. And the other one is, well, if they play nice, in this case, not make sound anymore, then you're good to go. I would though be contentious. You did say about if they're swearing. I'll say if that was one time, and again, here seeing the evidence is really important here. Probably nothing's going to happen with it, but if someone was being consistently belligerent, I would imagine that would be enough to evict someone.
Well, belligerent is a little different than swearing. I've yet to see that by itself being able to have a tenant reprimanded or evicted. Language is that people talk different ways, have different way, the words mean a different thing to them, or their line of work. Every second word's an F word, and that's not. I can't think of an adjudicator that would move somebody out for that.
And you're trying to draw a line, if I'm understanding you. Is there a difference, Don, because one's just swearing because they have foul language versus one's uttering swears and threats at someone?
It have to be, and there's a fine line on that too, on the threats. I mean, we all say things we don't mean. If somebody is angry and they say, I'm going to rip your head off and spit in the hole, well, that could be a threat if the guy is 6'8" and 300 pounds and, his waist is 24 inches and his arms are 32. He could rip your head off and spit in the hole. If it's a 5'3" lady who weighs 98 pounds, chances are not. So that's not a serious threat. And so that's the big basis. Is it possible? Is it really possible? So you're looking at the person who's making the threats. Are they maybe they have a history of violent behavior? Maybe they've been home some time in jail, or they've had some had to go to court a few times. They heavily talk about people that they punched in the nose at the bar or whatever. Then that you got to take that a little more seriously, and you can build around that. If it's a normal, mild-mannered fellow, that's got skinny arms, that's has never been known to be violent. I mean, we all get angry. That doesn't mean we're going to get violent to a degree that they can hurt. If they talk about their Bowie knife and how sharp it is, habitually, or they talk about the arsenal of guns that they have in the trunk of their car, now we're talking about something serious. If they're running with a known gang of some sort, I mean, there's some possibilities that you're actually being threatened, a real threat.
Right.
So all those things, bear in mind, I've had these kind of things before. I've had people take it to the police and say, this guy is threatening me, and the police take a look at this little wimp is threatening you. Well, let's investigate a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's difficult to prove. And anybody can say anything at any time when they're upset. That doesn't mean that they're the type of person that's going to do it.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's switch on the next one here. So our last question of the night, and if we get some live questions in, feel free to drop them in, is dealing with a fence post. And a fence post, sorry. Let me be
Fence.
We have a rental property. The owner of the property, the landlord, she's been approached by a neighbor of the rental property, who I believe is also a landlord and a realtor. And this other, the neighbor landlord wants to replace the common fence along their property. So, hey, I'm just going to read the question here, and then there's a ton of responses. And Don, I want to kind of get you to dig in from your kind of opinion on this, but how you'd handle the situation, and then we can talk a couple different outcomes if there is budget and appetite to do this versus they're not in a position financially to handle this. How would they handle having this quote? So hello, I've got a question regarding a fence installation for my rental property. My rental property neighbor's landlord, she's also a real estate agent, sent me a quote to install a fence, and she wants me to split the cost, paying 50%. But our fence is only one side fence. I'm not sure what she means by that part, but I have noticed the quote was done in November of 2023. What are my options here if I'm not to agree installing a new fence? So, Don, I'm going to flip the table to you. What can happen here?
Well, several things can happen. And I've been involved as a property manager with some of this. Oh, I got my helper here. Yeah. Where, the fence was not in the budget for the owner, and he just plain said no. The other side was very really wanted to have the fence and pushed heavy on it. And the answer is always no. He just didn't have the funds. Half,
So
quarter, doesn't matter. He didn't have the funds.
you're
So it
fully
ended
rights
up,
just to say no. So that's one
yeah,
of the answers
that's
right
right.
there.
And the guy built his own fence about 6 inches in on his property, which is fine. It didn't cost the owner anything, and there was a fence there. He just didn't paint it or anything, and that's that guy's fence.
Yeah.
That's his problem. In looking at this one, I noticed that the quote was something like 68 and a half feet of fencing. And I got thinking, that's a long ways. I mean, it would have to be an awful long yard because you wouldn't be, even front to back. That's a lot of fence. And my first thought is, is that including the backside of the neighbor's fence, to the alley or whatever?
Right. And
That's one
perhaps they're
thing.
getting a little extra in there, hoping that
Yeah, look at
the
that sort of stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
If you want to do it later, certainly, however you answer. I have one of my own units out here in the fort that a new neighbor moved in, and he wanted to redo the fence, and I said to him straight out, I don't have the money right now. I know it's something coming, and I've got a couple of things to do before I do that. I got to remove actually a tree so we could put the fence better, and that's going to cost me money, and yada yada. And so we set it up for 3 years, and we did it. 3 years later, we did it, and actually he went one better. He did it all, and I paid half the bill. So I really did well on that, and I thank him for that. So yeah, it's got to fit you. If it doesn't fit you, then you got to stay away from it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and kind of going through, it looks like the neighbor's looking to sell a property, so they're trying to fix it up to make it look a little bit nice. Yeah, so like you said, there's that options. If if both parties don't agree, then the party that wants to pursue building the fence has to move the fence onto their property, onto their side of the property. So perfect. So be it. I mean, if you take down your original fence, your yard's a little bit larger, but there's that. I'll say if they're going to pay for it, they could pick and choose any color they want. So, I mean, that's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, in most cases, it's really the prerogative of the homeowner. It's up to you if you want to do it or not. There's no obligation. I think that's probably the most important part here. There's no obligation to move forward, especially if you don't see the need for
it. Or you don't have the money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a fair chunk of money. That's a good fence at $4,000. So
yeah. Oh, exactly. And it looks like for neighbor splitting the cost, it sounds like she's getting her neighbor to split the whole cost of the whole fence around her neighbor's property, instead of just the common line or the common property line. So
yeah,
yeah,
and make sure
yeah,
that.
yeah. Anyways, the whole community jumped in. There was a ton of comments. It was a really interesting read, but people had a lot of good points to kind of like hone in on too. And the quote's old too. The quote was from last year too. So I mean, a lot of things can change.
It could be much more expensive. No.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up that point. I know I've got my better half has her women's ball league tonight, and she's taking off here in a bit for our late doubleheader. So I know if I don't wrap up soon, I'm gonna have two kids ruling the house upstairs, which with the dog, which is
visualizing
wax right there. Yeah. So, yeah, kind of a neat one. I'm gonna work better and get a better AI demo. It was definitely better the first time I used it. I'm a little disappointed in some of the outcome there. And I'll have to find perhaps some of the original photos that I did with AI. And they just really simple. It was cool. You can kind of pick some of the decor to match the demographic you're targeting, which is really good if you know, especially if you can get really niche down and target who you really want to live in that property, which kind of goes in that last one we talked about with the noise complaints between the two levels. Is that's an important art form to put the right neighboring tenants together that have similar lifestyles,
Mm.
at least similar schedules, so they're not keeping each other up when the other party's trying to sleep.
No, I always tried to avoid having children in the upper unit when there's a single guy downstairs, or vice versa, just for that, because kids can be noisy. That's for darn sure.
Guaranteed. Yeah, I can say that being a parent.
One
Guaranteed.
one question that come to mind as you were talking there.
Mhm.
If one of our listeners wanted to pose us a question, what would be the best way for him to do that? So you have it for the next session.
Yeah, we could create a little forum just to take kind of questions to be debated or brought up. Let's do it. I can spin
Okay.
one up. That's a good idea, Don.
No, well, we're here for the people out there. They're not there for us. We're here for them. So how can we help you?
Oh, I'm just a nerd in noise. I would be talking about this over a beer, probably, as cool I am. A little bit of playoff hockey, not too much right now, but I tend to have these conversations regardless. So we can help people educate, share some best tips and practices. It sure goes a long way. So let's
Amen.
wrap that one up. If you guys don't know, this is Don Gray with Edmonton Eviction Services. He's one of the sponsors of the page. I do appreciate it. And he's also quite knowledgeable, which is great because there are a lot of nuances to the business of being a landlord. And Don, always appreciate your time and wisdom. Thanks for joining us on the show again.
Glad to be here.
All right, take care, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.